Saleti discipuli. Today's, excuse my voice, got a little throat thing. Today's video is on the second lesson in chapter 21 in Latin for the new millennium, and it's on the future active participle. Now, we have learned one type of participle before this. Back in chapter 19, actually, we learned that participles are verbal adjectives, and as such, they have some characteristics of verbs, namely tense and voice, and they have some characteristics of adjectives, namely case, number, and gender. There are a total of 4 of these participles in Latin. You guys have learned the perfect passive. And today you're going to learn the future active. Future active. So you still have to learn the present active and the future passive. So you'll learn those in later chapters, okay? And so remind yourself there is no such thing as a present passive participle or a perfect active one, okay? So let's talk specifically about the future active participle. It is the perfect passive stem, so the fourth principal part, removing the and then you add urus, ura, urum. So what you'll notice is that the future active, right, future, adds an ur, us, ura, and urum, okay? The future active participle adds urus, okay? You can translate the future active participle in a number of ways. So using capturus, captura, captorum as our example, you can translate this about to take. You can translate it ready to take, going to take, on the point of taking, so on and so forth. And you decline the future active participle following the first, second declension pattern, okay? I also want to bring up to you guys the idea of participial phrases in this video. And what this means, remember we talked about this when we talked about the perfect passive participle, that because a participle is verbal, it can take, if it's active, a direct object, if it's passive, an ablative of agent or an ablative of means or so on and so forth. And you would just translate, about to take, if I wanted to say captura, maybe, about to take or about to capture the enemy. Right? It would be captura hostes. That is called a participial phrase. Now, in English, we do not use participial phrases as often as Latin does, and you will continue to see them Latin use participial phrases quite a bit. For that reason, we tend to translate participial phrases as a subordinate clause because in English we like subordinate clauses better than we like participial phrases, okay? So instead of translating the participial phrase as about to capture the enemy, we can say who was about to capture the enemy, or since they were about to capture the enemy, or when they were about to capture the enemy. And that just tends to sound better in English, okay? And we'll see a couple examples of this in a couple slides where I give you some sentences as example. So this is the declension of the future active participle. I do want you to write this chart down in your notes. And as you can see, we have the copt, perfect passive stem, plus the urus, ura, urum, and then declined following the first, second declension pattern. Pretty straightforward, actually. Okay, let's talk about translating the future active participle. I have 2 sentences for you here. You might notice they're very similar to the ones we did for the perfect passive because I want you to get used to seeing the morphology here. Milites captori hostes celeriter cucurerunt, okay? So our future active participle here is captori. Okay, so we can translate this, the soldiers, capture hostes, about to capture the enemy, cucurerunt, celeriter, ran quickly. Now, remember what I told you a couple slides ago. In English, we would prefer a subordinate clause to a participial phrase. So if you were to say the soldiers about to capture the enemy ran quickly, that's fine. but it sounds better in English to say the soldiers who were about to capture the enemy ran quickly, or the soldiers, since they were about to capture the enemy, ran quickly. And that gets the same message across, but actually sounds a little bit better to an English speaking ear or English hearing ear, as the case may be. Okay, let's look at our second sentence. Pueros discesoros ad ludum allo. So, discesoros is our future active participle. It translates about to depart. So, I feed the boys about to depart to school. And again, it just sounds a little bit awkward, right? So, I feed the boys who are about to depart to school. Sounds a little bit better to the ear, okay? All right, I hope you took good notes, and I will see you in class. Walete.